Next, I've taken one of our fills from the encyclopedia, and I want to show you how to divide it up into some odd times. That way you can start having fun with all these different fills and developing more to your character and what you're enjoying and what you're liking. So if you just feel a desire for 7/8, just take all the fills and make them 7/8, and then you can have a lot of fun with that. I'm going to play you just the fill that I'm going to be using. It's just 16ths on the snare, 2 bass drums, 16th floor tom, 16th snare, 16th first tom. So it'll be like this. Now play that with a beat so you can kind of feel how it feels. Now first, I'd like to make that fill into 3/4. So it's 4/4. We make it 3/4. We just cut off the last quarter. So it's going to sound like this, just the fill. And now with the beat. Now we're going to make that same fill into 5/4. And one way of approaching it is do the fill, and then what you do, you need an extra quarter note, so you take the beginning quarter note of the fill and put it at the end. So the fill in 5/4 now will sound like this. Now we'll do it with a beat. Next, I'd like to take that initial fill and do it in 6/8. So basically, I would take the first 6 notes and make them triplets as opposed to straight 16ths. So the fill now is just the first 6 notes, which would be this. And now with a 6/8 beat. So you can see at the end of that fill, there's 2 bass drums, an extra bass drum with the crash, so you have 3 altogether. So again, try not to do it too quickly at first. You want to take it nice and slow and get comfortable with it, and then slowly speed up your tempo from there. The next odd time I'd like to examine with this fill is 7/8. Taking the regular fill, which has eighth notes in it, and there's taking 1 off the end. So like I said in our note value section, you know, 1/8 note takes up the same space as 2 16ths. Since the fill is in 16ths, we take off the last 2 16ths. So now the fill in 7/8 sounds like this. And now with the beat. Now I'd like to look at the pattern in 9/8. Just taking the 16ths, converting them to 8th notes. You have just the 4 on the snare, 2 bass drums, 2 floor toms, 1 snare. So I'll play for you just the fill. and now with the beat. So you can see in the latter part of that fill how I started with my left hand on the last 3 eighth notes, because I had to come with 2 floor toms and a snare. So if I started with the right hand, I get this crossover thing again. I just did it with the left lead, makes it a little bit easier, makes it flow a little bit nicer. Now that we've done a straight 8th or straight 16th note fill from the encyclopedia, I'd like to examine a triplet one. Now with this fill, it just basically snare and first tom, but it has an accent scheme throughout it. So I'm going to play just the fill for you. Now with the beat, it sounds like this. Now we'll do that in 3/4. So again, we just cut off the last quarter, and then the fill now sounds like this. And now when I do it with the beat, you want to watch how I have to come out on the crash on the left hand. I start with the right, but it's triplets. Remember, it's groups of 3, but you only have 2 hands. Most of us have 2 hands. So groups of 3 with 2. So you have to start with the right and with the left. It'll be like this with the beat in 3/4. Now doing it in 5/4, again, we just take the first part of the fill and add it to the latter part of it. And it sounds like this, just the fill. Now with a beat. Notice again how I hit the crash with the left hand, because we'd added an extra triplet there. If it was just 4/4, it'd start with the right hand and with the right hand. But since there's an extra group of 3, started with the right hand, ended with the left. On our next fill, I'd like to look at 6/8. So just taking the first 6/8 notes. It'd sound like this, just the fill. Now again, keep in mind, ends with the left, so it's going to be right hand crash. Start with the right and with the right. Now in 6/8. Next, I'd like to look at some 9/8. With the 9/8, what I've done is I changed it all from triplets to 16ths. So it kind of gives it a totally different feel to it. So we're dealing with 9/8 notes, but now I've doubled it up. So I've got 18 16th notes. They're all straight 16ths. So I'm doing the same accent scheme, same order, but now it's 16ths. So the fill itself just sounds like this. And now with the beat. You notice on that fill, I led with my left hand. For me, it just felt more comfortable, feels more musical, and the more comfortable I feel, the more it's going to flow. So experiment left hand, right hand lead, and find out what's most comfortable with you and start with that, because I find for myself, the left hand is a lot stronger at certain points than my right. So what you can do is you take your right hand, if it's your strong one, or your left hand, work it out with your strong hand, and then what you can do is actually end it by teaching yourself. Because I noticed myself when getting more finesse within my grips, I would practice my left hand, it seems to be becoming a bit better, and then what I do is examine the left hand and teach my right hand to do more what the left hand is doing, because it works better. And maybe it's developing more of the muscles or just watching the stick position. So as you do things with your right hand or your strong hand, when you start doing them with your weaker hand, always revert back to the strong hand. That way you'll be able to teach yourself and you'll learn quicker and in a more efficient way. So in the next fill I'd like to do is 7/8. So I took the same thing, put it in 16ths, and then played it in 7/8. So the fill itself sounds like this. And now with the beat.